Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today Jason Jennings, book author of Hit the Ground Running, a manual for new leaders. Jason, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Kurt, it's great to be with you.
Good. Jason, listen, more important than ever today, in today's economy, let's say, we have to produce results a lot faster, don't we? Or we could be in trouble.
The average CEO is given less than a year to prove that he or she is moving in the right direction, and they probably are going to serve a total tenure of about 30 months.
Right.
And so the bottom line is whatever job you take in any company doing anything, you either have to produce results very quickly or you're yesterday's news.
That's correct. Now, listen, that has got to be on an up-and-running company, because I know that, you've got startups that are out there. It takes at least a year to get established, right?
Yes, it does. And you can't use any of that time gazing at your navel or hiring cadres of consultants to tell you what to do. You just don't have time.
All right, so let's talk about how'd you do your research for Hit the Ground Running?
There are 11,000 publicly traded companies in America. Myself and my research team wanted to find those CEOs, those new CEOs who had taken over since the year 2000, and who had created the greatest amount of economic value. And we defined economic value as increases in share prices, increases in dividends, increases in profits, and increases in revenues. We ran handheld computations on all 11,000 companies and identified those 10 companies headed by new CEOs who had created the greatest amount of economic value.
I see. Who's on the top of your list, let's say the number one and number two position?
Well, the number one position, and this will come as a shock to you, the J.M. Smucker Company that's been around for 100 years. Now, you would hardly think of this company as hitting the ground running, but the bottom line is when Tim and Richard Smucker took over 8 years ago as CEOs, Smucker's led in one product category, jams and jellies, and they were doing about $500 million. 8 years later, it's a $5 billion company, and they're product leaders in 8 cutthroat categories. So that's one of the first ones that comes to mind. And one of the other great companies that comes to mind is Goodrich. We think of Goodrich as a tire company. They haven't been in the tire business for 20 years. They've actually become the leading aerospace play internationally. And so those would be 2 companies at the top of the list.
All right. Now, in your study, you also found out that some companies in that actually doubled in revenues during a recession. How did they pull that off?
I can tell you exactly how they pulled it off. By rejecting all the conventional wisdom that you and I have been taught and we've been led to believe. The bottom line is conventional wisdom only achieves one thing at the best of times, and that's conventional results.
Right.
So they reject the idea that a CEO is imperial or has a secret strategy or talks instead of listens or brings in cronies at the top of the executive team or views people as dispensable commodities. These are truly not only new leaders, but they are a new kind of leader that fly in the face of everything we've been taught.
Jason, seriously, how'd they get anything done by not doing all that?
Right? Amazing, isn't it, when you keep things very simple? Let me tell you the first 3 things that jumped out at us.
All right.
We've all heard the golden rule. As ye sow, so shall ye reap.
Sure.
But you know what? What's amazing is every one of these top 10 CEOs in the country that created the greatest amount of economic value, that is their credo. That is the commandment by which they run their companies. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. The second thing that happens is these people took over, and as Mike McAllister, the CEO of Humana, told me, he said, look, a leader can never come in and get rid of all the top people in the company and replace them with their cronies and friends and lieutenants. He said, because when you do that, you lose all the tribal knowledge of the organization. He said you've got to play the team you've got, play the players you've got. And so the second thing all of these CEOs did is rather than firing people or replacing people, they worked hard to gain the belief of people around them.
Sure.
And then the third thing that happened, and this flies in the face of conventional wisdom again, in most companies, the strategy is secret, and the strategy is created by the people at the top of the organization. The problem with that is secret strategies, as we've seen being led to the edge of a financial abyss, secret strategies are stupid. Secret strategies don't work. People are being asked to do work and they don't know why. Secret strategies cause people to do illegal things and they offer no accountability. All of these CEOs said, look, what we have to do is every individual in the company has to know the strategy. They have to know the big objective. They have to know what we're trying to do. And the next thing that all of these CEOs did is they simplify everything and work ruthlessly to keep everything very simple. Very recently, after a speech, I was sitting in a hotel lobby. Somebody wanted to talk to me about a new business venture, and I said, well, tell me what it is.
Right.
Well, 30 minutes later, I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. I didn't know what they were going to sell, what they were going to produce, or what they were going to do, much less raise money to get this thing off the ground. All of the companies that we identified, and all of the CEOs, have the most simplistic of value propositions, and they don't work to complicate things. They work to make them increasingly simple.
Now, Jason, did you help the fellow out and you say, listen, you need to shorten this down to about 3 to 5 minutes, and I need to understand exactly what you're saying? The least path of resistance of communication is the fact that when you're done talking, I actually know what you're talking about.
Well, that's exactly right, and we certainly found that on the part of these CEOs. Unfortunately, it's a quality and a talent that seems to be sadly lacking in much of American business.
All right, now, young people entering the marketplace today for their first time, or even mid-career professionals, learn how these CEOs approach art, don't they? We talked about where you don't keep a secret. I think a secret's good for the 13 recipes, but not for the market strategies. Everybody needs to be on board for that. So is that what they learn when the new people coming in?
Yeah, that's exactly what they learn. And one of the things that we found fascinating in our research is young people in their 20s and 30s, are truly also on a search for, they understand, people in their 20s and 30s understand that speed is a natural condition. Right. Getting things done, is really natural.
Sure.
Putting up roadblocks and obstacles, is not the natural condition.
Right.
So people in their 20s and 30s understand speed, but they understand one other thing that's sadly lacking in most American business, and that's authenticity. And that's one of the things that attracts young people to these companies in droves.
Right, all right. Well, so what we're talking about here, basically a sense of urgency, right, to produce faster results. They got to be on board.
As Keith Ratty, the CEO of Questar, a natural gas company, one of the companies in the book says, look, my job as CEO, 365 days a year, is to instill a sense of urgency. Right. Because if we're not doing the right thing, damn it, we got to fix it and do the right thing. And if we're doing the right thing and getting good results, guess what? One day the rug's going to be pulled out from under us. It's all going to change, and therefore our obligation is to be urgent in every single thing we do.
Absolutely, I agree with that 100%. All right, so if there's one thing, Jason, in Hit the Ground Running that you really want everybody to know about, what would it be?
There were so many things that jumped out at me, but one that I love to mention is this. When Ron Sargent took over as CEO of Staples, the $30 billion office supermarket, he gathered everybody around him and he said, from this time forward, we are done looking at the competition. He said the only point in studying the competition is to be able to say, hey, we don't suck any worse than they do.
That's really a distraction, isn't it?
And he said, from this point forward, we don't care what the competition does. Right. We're going to study our customers.
Good.
And by studying our customers, we're going to know how to be better at what we do, and so we're done studying the customers, or studying the competition. When you consider, the billions of dollars on consulting companies and companies that measure how your competitors are doing, it's money wasted, Kurt.
Yeah.
These companies don't study the competition. They don't care what the competition is doing, because if they try to emulate the competition, they're going to engage in tactics, a la Circuit City.
Right.
And look what happened to Circuit City, who tried to copy everything that Best Buy did.
Right.
They're gone.
I know. I've lived that scenario with Traders Nation. Okay, I've lived that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think that a business should know what their competitions do, but to effect where they're there, and that's it. Because otherwise it becomes a distraction. And if you become a distraction, then you don't know where your own ship is going.
Not only a distraction, Kurt, it becomes an absolute obsession in most companies.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. Jason Jennings with us here today. Hit the Ground Running, a manual for new leaders. Jason, we're out of time. Where can we find it? Amazon?
Find me at Amazon, and as of yesterday, every bookstore in America.
Perfect. Jason Jennings. Thanks for your time today on Traders Nation. Do really appreciate it.
Kurt, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Up next, My Stocks, and maybe even a quick call. Stay tuned.